Hi, it's Amelia, and welcome to Behind the Closet. If you are new to my thoughts, welcome. If you have followed me on the journey of many short thoughts, welcome to a long thought. This will be a little bit longer than my 1 minute videos, but I have been asked and requested to make it a little bit longer, that the short bite-sized pieces are great. But if I was to take more time in terms of breaking down the concepts that I'm talking about, that would even be better. So here we go. So today we're going to be talking about change. Yeah, and a long drum roll, change, and the whole concept of change. I don't know if you guys have heard it, because I've heard it a lot. That's, the only thing in life that's constant is change. Yeah, that and Jesus. But when we think of change, we often think of change as something that happens outside of us and not something that happens within us. We see change as the days going, seasons, people, environments, and that's how we conceptualize change. We think that change is happening around us and not necessarily within us. And what happens is, when we are looking at the change happening around us, we never take note of how what's happening on the outside is impacting us on the inside. So, for instance, I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago. To some people, I still look alike, still look like that girl, which is I'm grateful for. But if you've known me 5 years ago and who I am now, there are some stark, distinct differences between who I was and who I am now. And that is the kind of change that we're talking about. When people are in relationships, they change. They say that you marry someone one time, say I do, but on the journey, that person that you are with changes, becomes a bit different. And the journey of marriage is two people who are changing, and how you two kind of keep up with one another. So that's the change that we hear about. But again, it's talking about people changing. But how do we look at change? And I really took time to think about this, because if I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago, am I the same person that I was 6 months ago, a month ago? And if I really did the introspection, I would then realize that I'm not that person. That there is a version of that person that is here today, but in its entirety, I have changed, I have transformed. There are certain things that I believe that I don't believe anymore. There are certain things that I wanted to do that I don't necessarily want anymore. And that just happens with new experiences. So I wanted to take us on this journey of change and have us look at how change happens on the inside of us, and how do we respond to that change? What do we do to maintain change? So we need to also take into consideration what kind of change we're going through. So there are different kinds of changes, and there's different things that we react to. So I'm going to talk about good change, and then we'll talk about change where we can't control it, whether it be some sort of external force that then acts on us, and then as it acts on us, it takes us out. So the first part, we are looking at change, and that's us planning for the season that we're in. So depending on where you're at in life is the change that you're going to go through. So for instance, if you're in school and you're going through different grades, as you progress and the end of the year comes through, obviously with the new year, if you pass, you go to a new grade. That is a change that you can plan for. You can plan for what's going to happen when I leave high school and I go into varsity, or what happens when I go to university and now I need to now enter the job world. How do I navigate that? How do I navigate, my 20s, and saying that I am 20 something years old, meaning that right now what I like to do is hang out with my friends. My friends are easily available. Most of my friends aren't married. And now I have all the time in the world to begin to discover who I am, to discover what I like, to go on adventures, take big risks. This is the season of your life that you do it, around your 20s. And in this season, you then begin to put in some foundational steps so that you can kind of see where you're going in the future. So that you know that as time passes, that you are now implementing certain things. So if you're not financially savvy, you don't know what to do about money, you begin to learn about money. If you are not into relationships or you want to get into a relationship, you begin to look at relationships and decide, okay, what is for me right now? What do I want? What do I want my future to look like? And you begin to make incremental steps in order to get there. This is the stage where you do that, and that's where you are then embracing the change. You are preparing for the next season of your life. So that's 20s, right? Then you get to the 30s. When you get to your 30s, it's about what did you do in your 20s? Do you have some sort of backing, some sort of foundation? And we are then building on that foundation. So if you didn't study when you were in your 20s, I mean, it's not too late, but hopefully in your 30s, you would have finished studying. You would have got that all sorted. If you don't have a driver's license here in South Africa, having a driver's license is a big deal because everything is 20 minutes away, but that's more like 20 Ks away. So kilometers away. So you need some sort of transportation to get around unless you can Uber everywhere. But these are the things that you think about. What your 20s were is not what your 30s were, because now you're in your 30s, you're settling down, you're figuring out what your master path is, you're basically coming into your own. Most people around 30s are married, they have children, they are now progressing in their careers or their businesses. This is the time that happens in their 30s. And that's where we find that before I even go to like 40s, 50s. That's a whole nother season. But with your 20s and your 30s, is as time goes on, with every season, you find that there's a new version of yourself. So your friends that you had in your 20s aren't necessarily the friends or the full pack of friends that you will have in your 30s. Because as you grow and you're exposed to new experiences, new people, something in you will begin to gravitate to different people, different social circles, different financial circles, social class. All of those things will begin to happen, and the kind of people that you gravitate to won't necessarily be the same people. For some people, a rare bunch of people, the same people you started with are the same people you're riding with, but it would be a blend of all these people that you're with. So with it, what I want us to get in terms of being a new creation is that we need to allow ourselves to change. I know we want to be like, I don't change, I'm the realest one out there, but we do change. And we are okay to change. Change is not a bad thing. And change just means adapting. You know, anything that doesn't adapt dies. And as we grow older and as we go through situations, we need to adapt. And that's when you have to make sure that you are changing within the way that you want to change. So are you making steps to become a more responsible person if you're really irresponsible? Or if you're very uptight and your goal is to become free, a little bit more free, living by the windish, I don't know. But you can decide. It all depends on your freedom and how you want to live your life. And that's the kind of change that we need to prepare for. We are constantly changing, but if we are not preparing for the change by making steps and being intentional, we're finding that the change is taking us over. Like it's like a giant wave that just takes us over and completely overwhelms us. And we then become shadows of our previous selves without knowing how we got there, not knowing how to then navigate it. And I'm saying, for us to be new creations, We need to intentionally look for change. We need to be intentional about building change, as in, there's a principle: you get 1% better every day. You focus on one thing and you get 1% better at this thing every day, meaning that then you are regulating your change. You are then putting steps in place to make sure that your change is occurring. And those are the things that I'm talking about when I say that, we have the ability to change, to be a new creation. You are not the person that you were yesterday. Yes, there is a shadow of who you were yesterday, but yesterday's me is not today's me. I can be assured, if you saw me yesterday and you saw me today, not the same person. Same person, maybe physically, maybe certain things, but not necessarily the same person. So that's the form of change that I'm talking about, intentional change. There's a secondary change, which happens to all of us. Life happens to all of us. We all go through circumstances. We all have things happen to us that can utterly destroy us. We're talking about things that could be traumatic, could be losing a loved one, it could be losing a job, it could be mental health, that your mental health just goes up in smoke and you just can't do. There are so many different things that happen to us that unless we are aware that a change is happening, that we would then be overwhelmed by it. And hear me out. This is not what I am saying. I am not saying that when you're going through a rough patch that you must totally ignore everything that's happening to you. Be like, oh, didn't happen to me. It's all in my mind. Does not exist kind of stuff. No. What I'm saying is we begin to intentionally navigate through difficult seasons. If you're going through a season of grief, I've gone through a season of grief. And instead of losing myself to the darkness, to the hurt, to the pain, it's about taking it moment by moment. There are moments where it could be overwhelming, and to kind of like sit in the moment and allow myself to feel the feelings, but also allow them to subside. And to be okay with not being sad some days and not feel guilty that I'm not sad about the fact that I don't have a dad anymore. And navigating, what is life like now different without a dad? What kind of things have I missed out on? What things will I never get to do? What things do I wish I could do? Those are the kind of things that I'm saying when you're intentional with saying that you can feel your inner change. But instead of it just being totally overwhelming, we begin to navigate change. If you've been in organizations, yes, buildings, corporate companies, all those places, we take change very seriously. So you'll usually get like a transformation manager or a change agent who then is in charge of navigating this change, in charge of bringing everybody together, getting everybody's feelings, whether you're feeling apprehensive, whether you're excited, whether you're unsure. There'd be a person who just rallies everyone else in terms of this is where we're going. It's unknown, it's unseen, but it doesn't mean that's not where we're going. And that is the kind of thing where I'm saying, as a new creation, as a new person, as a person going through change, constant change, we need to be sure where our destination is. Where are we going? What are the things we're building? And even as we get life happening to us, we have to be able to navigate that. And of course, I've gone through it. I've mapped it out for myself. I'm not talking about things that I don't know. It's about making sure that I think you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And especially when it comes to change, it's one of the greatest things that you can do is to figure out how you will make it out before the rough time hits. Because it's bound to hit. We're bound to have hard times. We're bound to have setbacks. But it's how we bounce back. And yeah, so this is my long thought. It's here. I'm excited to give it to you. So let's enjoy and let's see how we progress, and let's see how we change and how we then enhance our heart's desire to change and begin to navigate change from a less fearful perspective, but a more excited perspective. So yes, it's Amelia. Have a good one. I'm praying for you that you will finish strong.